Hey guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End, and no intro on this. Obviously, today is the 22nd year anniversary of 9/11, and I just thought I'd do one story. Obviously, remembering what we lost that day, I was a senior in high school, actually doing student teaching in a middle school when the planes crashed, and remembering thinking, "Okay, well, that's really odd," and we all pretty much thought it must have just been an accident because, there had been smaller planes that had gotten lost and gotten into, sort of run into air or skyscrapers as there were, and so it wasn't until I got home and my mom had just had my little sister on the 31st of August, got home and my mom was on maternity leave, and it really hit that, "Oh my goodness, well, this is the world now." So that was, definitely a very strange moment, and I'm sure we all have our stories, but it seems like there are families that are still having to fight along with so many of the firefighters and families of the construction workers and people who helped with the cleanup who are still having to fight our government to get help because of the really big health problems that, being around all of that zone caused them. And while I don't agree with him at all on nearly anything political, Jon Stewart has done an awesome job with everything he has done for these, firefighters and these veterans at Ground Zero who did all of this work and now are suffering greatly. So, I think I'll let them speak for themselves, and hopefully, I will have fixed the bugs, and hopefully this works this time, but I am gonna keep it small just so I can make sure this time that it's working, and next time I will start it big. So let's and, there's a part of me, and it's going to sound really sad to say, but for a few months after 9/11, I wish I could go back because we really came together as a country. There wasn't, you know us and them. We weren't so divided, and maybe I'm looking at it with rose-colored glasses. Maybe I'm not remembering the day-to-day minutia and everything, and you know what? You kind of do that as you look back on things, but I just remember that we all just became Americans, and it was before we, went to, like, "Let's go hunt people down," but it was you saw the people with ash on their face, and it wasn't, "That person's African American, that person's, this, that person's that." It was, "That person is an American, let's go help them, let's make sure they're safe." And I wish we could go back to that because that's the country that I wanna leave my kids. I mean, where you just see someone and you wanna make sure they're okay, and you wanna make sure that they're doing alright, not because of what they look like, but because they're your fellow country person, and you just wanna make sure they're okay. And that's what hopefully, having lived through that, I'm definitely trying to teach my kids. And, you know, I'm just one person. I am one Mo on on the internet. I have a small channel, a loud mouth, red hair. But if I can at least create little people that are gonna go out and try to treat everyone with respect and dignity because of that day, knowing that life is precious, then hopefully that's one small thing I can do. But let's read the article. It was supposed to be just any other ordinary day. Terry Stranada's husband, Tom, a 41-year-old bond broker at Cantor Fitzgerald, got up and went to work. She was home that Tuesday morning with her 3 children, one of whom was starting nursery school. Then the phone rang. Heartbreak ensued. Tom was standing on the 104th floor of the northern tower of Manhattan's World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. He told her a plane smashed into the building beneath his feet. Smoke billowed out of the tower. A cacophony of panicked background screams infused the phone call with a sense of deep despair. Her heart sank. Something horrible was happening, Stradata said, as she recently recounted to the Post. He had a cell phone. He was with a group of friends. They were going to the stairwell. That was the last she ever heard from him. A flower is placed at the National September 11th Memorial in Manhattan ahead of the 22nd anniversary of 9/11. Although feeling blessed that Tom had an opportunity to say goodbye and he loved her, Strada also now has to live with the profound burden of that gut-wrenching call. Tom was one of the 2,977 victims who perished that dark day, and Monday, on the 22nd anniversary of the attack, the raw pain that family members such as Stradata still feel will be palatable and as fresh as ever while their fight for justice rages on. Top on the minds of many 9/11 family members turned activists are the federal documents being withheld from the public about Saudi Arabia's alleged involvement, as well as plea deals being mulled involving some of the attack's masterminds. Now, this is the most dirty thing that I think our American government could be involved in. You had an attack. We know that there were blind spots. Let's generously call it blind spots in our intelligence. And because of wanting to be friends with certain people, we've withheld from these families information that we don't want getting out. Not only are we fighting the Saudi government, we're fighting our own government. Dennis McGilney said to the Post, "It's like our government is helping the murderers." McGilney lost his oldest brother, Danny, who was in the South Tower that day. McGilney is infuriated by the fact that the Pentagon is contemplating plea deals for some al-Qaeda detainees, such as purported 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. McGinley's family and other victims' kins received a letter informing them about potential deals several weeks ago, though last week the Biden administration rejected some of the concessions being considered. Quote, "They're telling us it's probably not going to court, and the reasons they don't want to be there to be a trial, because these terrorists in Guantanamo Bay, they're going to spill the beans on Saudi Arabia's involvement in alleged U.S. failures in the run-up to the attack," McGinley surmised. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's attorney in Guantanamo Bay told our attorneys, "If you guys had this information, everyone would be up in arms," McGinley added. For years, family members have feuded with the governments over files that would shed more light on how the terrorist attack was orchestrated. In 2021, President Biden signed an executive order directing the government to divulge additional information about the attack. One of the many bombshell revelations in the trove was that an FBI report summary alleging that Saudi national Omar al-Bayoumi, y'all know me names, had correspondence with at least two of the hijackers and Saudi Arabia government entities in the U.S. The report detailed more information on al-Bayoumi and other Saudi fingerprints on the attack than was previously known. The summary came from the FBI's Operation Encore, which investigated 9/11. Victims' family members are still seeking outstanding material, including al-Bayoumi's potential role. Saudi Arabia has strenuously denied any culpability for the heinous slaughter of Americans that day. "We are tired of having this fight," bemoaned Brett Engelson, head of 9/11 Justice. "We would just love for the president to demand that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia admit fault and be held responsible." Brett was a 15-year-old high school sophomore when his father, Bruce, 53, on the 17th floor of the South Tower working a gig for Westfield Meriden Mall on 9/11. Normally, Bruce operated out of Connecticut, but as part of his job managing malls on the East Coast, he wound up at the South Tower that day to oversee renovations of a mall beneath the towers. Sometime after the second plane collided with the South Tower, Eagleson's brother Kyle, then 22, talked to their father on the phone. As with Strada, Kyle heard absolute pandemonium and terror reverberating around Bruce, who was extraordinarily calm. Kyle urged him to bolt out of the flame-engulfed building, but Bruce was bent on helping others escape first. Bruce's last known whereabouts were the lobby of the building, where he was believed to have told others about his heroic plans to zip back up the 17th floor to ensure it was cleared out. "That's the bittersweet part of all of this," Brett Eagleson said. "Growing up is like you want to be proud of him, but the other side of you is like, why didn't you just get the hell out of the building, Dad?" A recent glimmer of hope in Eagleson's crusade for justice is the Ensuring Justice for Victims of Terrorism Act, which closes loopholes in previous legislation that permits victims to sue foreign states over terrorism. But that legislation was recently put on hold by Senator Tom Cotton, whose office told the Post he has concern about unintentional national security consequences at this time. And in the bill's present form, disillusionment over the government's response to 9/11 transcends party. With every administration, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden, they use 9/11 families as political pawns in a geopolitical world. Sean Pastanati griped of the country's presidents, "It's a national tragedy." Pastanati is now almost the same age as his father, Horace, 55, who was on the 100th floor of the North Tower as he perished. The two had a lovely steak dinner about 3 months before to celebrate Sean's birthday. The son, who was gearing up to purchase a house, got his father's input. A few days before the attack, Horace left a message on his son's answering machine after the two played a bit of phone tag. Sean still has the message, which includes his father talking about how he was at the US Open and really enjoyed it, and they should talk soon. Many 9/11 family members would have been rankled by the Biden's decision to observe 9/11's 22nd anniversary at a military base in Alaska after his multi-day visit or many to New Delhi, India for Group 20 summit and pit stop at Vietnam. So he will be staying at Alaska to observe 9/11 because his beach or his vacation home in Lake Tahoe is busy, and apparently Rehoboth Beach is just too far of a fly. Look, I you can like this president. Everyone has everyone has the right to like whoever they wanna like as this president. I personally don't think he's been doing a great job. I think he completely vacations all the time, but again, you can super de duper like this thing, uh, because of course it does, and of course they do. Oh my gosh. But, but he really couldn't it just seems like the one thing you should be able to do for these families is be there. It's the biggest attack of a non-military style it's the biggest non-military or civilian attack on American soil. You should be able to get there every year. I don't find it to be that difficult, or there should be a very big reason. But this is a stark departure from the tradition of marking the dark anniversary from one of the 3 attack sites, New York City, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. Notably, former President Barack Obama commemorated the attack in 2015 from the White House before heading to Maryland. Former President George W. Bush marked the somber occasion in 2005 from the White House lawn. It just sends a very concerning signal, Eagleson vented of Biden's actions. Neither the White House, the Justice Department, nor the FBI responded to the Post request for comment. September 11 family members, including Eagleson, have also lashed out at former President Donald Trump for hosting Saudi-linked live golf at his resorts. Much to their chagrin, the PGA Tour also recently moved to ink a deal with Live. Another lingering issue from the day is the various health impediments that have afflicted first responders and bystanders during the attack and its aftermath. Shortly after 9/11, Congress established September 11th Victim Compensation Fund to provide money for 9/11 induced injuries and other woes. There is not a day that goes by that I don't speak to someone who says, "I never knew I was eligible for compensation or health benefits," says Troy Rosaccio, a lawyer at Hansen and Rosaccio law firm. I'm going to have to go to remedial learning how to say people's last name to the Post. The lawyer who does legal work for 9/11 victims underscored that it's not just first responders eligible for compensations. Workers who return to their offices while poisonous, cancer-causing toxins coated the air are also due for compensation as well. It's a complex process. It was designed to be straightforward, but there are hundreds and hundreds of pages of fine print regulations that govern it. Look, the government made it so think of the VA, and of course, there's going to be 900,000 hoops to jump through. Awareness is probably the core problem at hand, according to Hansen and Rosaceo, they cited the estimate that as many as 500,000 people may have been exposed to toxic particles. Yet there have been comparatively paltry 800 or 85,475 VCF claims submitted, according to the latest available data from the government. More people have died from environmental fallout from the Twin Tower attack than did on the actual day, according to the VCF. Symptoms could start to emerge even decades later, which is part of why Hansen and Rosaceo believe awareness is paramount. New York has advanced the 9/11 Notice Act to compel relevant employers to inform their workers about available benefits. Governor Kathy Hochul is expected to sign that legislation to mark the 22nd anniversary. In another bid to raise awareness and never forget the brutal attack, bipartisan group of lawmakers in Congress introduced a resolution backing mandatory 9/11 curriculums in classrooms. Only 14 states require that instruction on 9/11. Legislation was introduced ahead of the 22nd attack anniversary. Yet, with all the ongoing issues surrounding that fated day, some victims are trying to focus on the brighter side of things. Jay Winnick lost his brother Glenn in the attack. Glenn was still at his apartment in Midtown Manhattan getting ready for work when the first plane hit. Seeing the bone-chilling news, Glenn sprang into action, burnishing his firefighting credentials, bolting to the South Tower in a bid to evacuate those trapped there and saving lives. He had previously responded to the World Trade Center when the World Trade Center was bombed in 1993, but this time would end differently. That's certainly a heroic thing, but it's the way Glenn lived his life, Winnick reflected. It's horrific that he was murdered this way, but he died doing something he loved, and that gives me solace. Winnick's best guess is that his brother died near the lobby. To honor his late brother's memory, Winnick helped co-found the September 11th Day of Service and Remembrance, which he stressed was one of 2 days of service recognized under the federal law and presidential proclamation. Winnick is encouraging the country to honor the fallen by giving back to others and coalescing in national solidarity. Our mission is to bring people together in unity, Winnick said. Who knew 22 years ago when we started this day that 9/11 Day of Service would be relevant today, as it was then, perhaps even more so. A day focused on putting aside our differences. So at the end of it, if anything positive could have happened to come out of this, then it definitely was that for a couple of for such a short time, we all came together. I mean, it was American flags and America. I mean, to the point that it did get mocked on South Park. I mean, everything gets mocked on South Park. But for a short time, we all just came together and we all just put our arms around New York and we were all just there. And it didn't matter what you looked like or who you were. We all just wanted to help, and I wish we could get back to that because that would be lovely. So I hope maybe today, if you could do something nice and just try to get us back a little bit to that world, that would be great. Not gonna ask you to like and subscribe, that seems kinda cheap and tawdry, but, do something nice today. Try to bring us a little bit back to that world. Thank you to our service members, to our military members. Um, Big unthank you to our government members who seem to be wholly focused on sweeping under the rug the people that did this, but what can you do? And I will see you guys later. Um, Look, just try not to get over Twitter pated in all of the reruns today. I know it can be bad for some people's mental health, so don't get too bogged down. Uh, Mornings with Mo will not be covering this because, look, I know some people, it's easy to get back into this. Try to remember how we all came together. Try to do some small things in your own little circle, in your own little corner. That's all we can do. We are little small people to make the world a better place. And if all of us do little small things, I firmly believe that we can make small grains of sand can make an avalanche. Okay, guys? Have a good day. I'll see you later. Okay, guys? Bye.